Hello viewers, I'm Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to the another episode of the Tax Talk right here on ITV Gold. By now you know what Tax Talk show is all about, and thank you so much for watching it week after week. Thank you for your comments, thank you for your questions, and thank you for your words of appreciation. This is the time when everyone needs to know about taxes and as much information possible, because a lot has changed, especially year 2021 it's the year when tax laws have changed a lot. There are so many credits available for everyone, but you need to find out what are those tax credits and how you can take an advantage of it to get maximum refund for yourself. And Science CPA Services, a full-fledged accounting firm, can really help you out with any tax-related questions. Multiple locations in state of New Jersey, and they're always easy to reach, and they are always there to help you out with their on-hand number of CPAs can really help you out and make sure that your tax return is filed appropriately. 908-380-6876 is their phone number. ScienceCPAServices.com is their website. Mr. A.J. Kumar of Science CPA Services joins us every week in the show to guide us about the taxes. Mr. A.J. Kumar, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Good to have you. And as this episode is a continuation of the last week's episode, where we started to talk about foreign nationals arriving in here in the USA, but who guides them, who suggests them, where should they go, what state they should be filing their company, and what kind of company they should be filing, and how are the compliance issues to be followed up. It's all detailed thing that needs to be followed. It's not that easy, and for them, the first person who helps them out is Mr. Naveen Pathak of Entry Level. They basically connect opportunities for businesses here in the USA. He joined us last week, and this week he's also with us to give more information on this matter. Mr. Pathak, welcome to the show once again. Good to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ready. Now, last week we discussed about companies arriving here in the USA to do the business. And we're not only talking about India. Yes, India could be a major part of it. But there are other countries also want to do business here in USA, because this country gives an opportunity like no other country in the world. But everything must be followed as per US rules and regulations. So as Mr. Pathak brings them to you, Mr. A.J. Kumar, right? And you basically guide them where, what state to register. Now, I'd like you to continue that, whether LLC
Absolutely.
or
Absolutely.
C corporation or whatnot.
Absolutely. So we'll help you as a foreign national. It doesn't have to be India, any country that wants to start a business in US. As Sanjeev, you rightly mentioned, you have to follow the US rules. If you are in my country, you have to follow my rules. Consider from that perspective, if you are registering a business in US, you have to follow the US rules. So we'll help you decide if you want to open an LLC or a C Corp. There are two types of structure at a high level that the foreign nationals are allowed to open in US. We'll also help you decide which state you need to register. We'll also help you register the federal registration, the EIN, the state registration, the corp number, the tax registration, the labor registration, the whole 9 yards. Then Entry India team will also help you get the bank account opened, get the warehousing to set up your business. And then we will also help you with the compliance. So it's a one-stop shop for your business to have a foreign presence. This episode is more about the compliance. What compliances are needed? How much does it cost? When do you need to do these filings? How much does it cost? What are the tax brackets? What are the tax liabilities? Can you bring the money back home? How much do you have to pay to the US government, to the local government? This is what we are going to be talking about. So stay tuned, a lot more to come. But you want to add something, Naveen, before we start?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this becomes very important because at the end of the day, it is about taxation, right? So, just to get started, my question, as I mentioned, has already brought this item up, is that what are the US tax liabilities that these foreign companies should look at when they are doing business here in the US?
Absolutely. So let's see what are the compliance needs are, what filing requirements are there. So what you have started the business, and we'll have different type of filing requirements for the type of structure you have started. If it's an LLC, we have slightly different filing requirement as opposed to a corporation. So corporation is a bigger structure, long-term structure, as we discussed in the first episode. It allows you to have public funding. It allows you to have US investors on the Other side, LLC is a simpler structure, easier structure. I just want to sort of try it out first before getting it too big in the country. That's the LLC structure. So in LLC, you have an annual income tax filing. It doesn't matter if you have transactions or no transaction, even if you have not opened a bank account. When you have a US business, it comes at certain responsibility, certain filing obligations are there. If you have registered a business, you must file a tax return, annual income tax return, even if you have no income. So the name could be misleading. Hey, you said annual income tax return. I have no income. I did not even open the bank account. I have no transaction. You still have to file the taxes if it's a C corporation. And just remember, each type of business has certain licensing requirement. Let's say, for example, a C corporation in the state of New Jersey must pay at least $500 to the state of New Jersey. In the state of California, you have to pay $800. In the state of New York, you have to pay up to $2,000 depending on how much revenue you have. So each state is collecting certain amount of money from your business, transaction or no transaction. So the state mandates the filing. State requires, if a lot of people decided, hey, I have no income or no transaction, state will be losing half the revenue. So state, the government, the IRS is mandating that the filing is mandatory. It doesn't matter if you have transactions, if you have opened the bank account or not. That's annual income tax filing. Every business has to do. Then there is an annual licensing renewal. Some states will call it excise tax renewal. Some states will call it annual report filing. Some states will call it license renewal. It's an annual filing that goes with the state only, no IRS. And they have small fees, right from $25 to $125 in most states. You file this thing based on the fiscal year. When you started the business, in 12 months, you file this annual license renewal, annual report, and that's $100 or $200 with the state only. These are the two filing requirements, sort of annual report filing, or let's call it license renewal, and the annual income tax filing. Annual income tax filing goes with the central government, with the IRS, as well as with the state government. The license renewal is only with the state. There is no license renewal with the IRS. These are the two filings that are mandatory for all companies, LLC or C Corp, retail or service. These two filings are mandatory for all type of businesses.
Well, Ajay, you mentioned something in your reply to my question regarding the tax liabilities. One thing I've noticed and very critical is that online portals, many of them say you form a single member LLC so that you don't have to pay taxes. How does that work? To what extent this is true or this is incorrect?
So a single member LLC is supposed to file taxes with your personal taxes. So the IRS does not have a way to track the foreign national if they are not filing the personal taxes. That does not make it legally right. The day you try to take money back home as profit distribution, then it will be highlighted and then the government can come back and try to close the business down. So all businesses are required to file the taxes. The single member LLC can get away by not filing it, not doing it right for a couple of years, for a certain number of years, only because the government does not have a way to chase down the foreign national. That's why the scrutiny is slightly higher for the foreign national to start a business in the US. If you have a local US partner, the formation is much easier, the compliance is much easier, only because we know who do we go behind if the filings are not done.
Okay, gentlemen, I have a question. Sorry,
Please.
We're going to go on a break very soon. So I just want to ask a question, continuation of this.
Please.
When company approaches you, enter India, and then they are here, right? And if company says, for example, that they want to start a business, they want to set up a company and they want to sell T-shirts and shirts and whatnot, right? So that's how you guide them, set up a company, whatever state, fine. 6 months later, company wants to add something. They want to sell perfumes or something like that, or shoes or something. Do they have to let you know that they're going to be selling this product, or they can do whatever they want to do once the formation is done?
That's a great question, Sanjeevji. As long as they are selling, so when we register the business, we don't tell the government that we'll be selling shoes. So as long as you are selling retail, and you are adding the shoes, the socks, the laces, it's all good. You don't have to let the government know. But let's say if you started the business for selling shoes, a retail store. and now you want to do the IT consulting work as well.
Oh, obviously,
Then
that's
you
a two
have to
different
let the
categories.
government know
Yes.
if it's not the same type of business.
It's a two different
And
things.
it will create the obligations for different type of insurances as well.
True,
So
true.
having a business in the country, you should consider having some basic general liability or some sort of insurance as well.
Right. So they really can't go completely out of their,
They can, in that case, they should register with the state or let the government know that I will be doing this and this
and
business.
this one. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. With that note, viewers, I hope that you got enough information. Let's take a short break while you make notes. And when we come back, we'll have, as always, a lot more coming your way regarding this topic. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the second half of the Tax Talk with Mr. AJ Kumar right here on ITV Gold. In the first half, we started to discuss these foreign nationals wanting to set up a business here in the USA. And this is actually a continuation of last week's show. This is a part 2 of the 2. And of course, with Mr. AJ Kumar, we're joined by Mr. Naveen Pathak of Entry India. And they're giving a lot more information for all of us to know that how the foreign nationals business formation works here in the USA. So far, we have covered everything. They're here in USA. They set up, and everything else is done. I'd like you to go to Mr. Pathak for his next comment or question.
Yes. So AJ, a very critical question that I have for you is that a lot of these companies do an online search and then they come to us and they say, they want to form LLC because it's simpler to manage and everybody is forming LLC. Now, LLC is technically a pass-through organization. That means whatever income it is, it goes into my personal tax return. So anyone who has formed an LLC, they have to file personal tax returns. Is that the right way?
Absolutely. So in an LLC, you have the right to have it flow through, or you have the right to be paying the taxes at the entity level. So an LLC at the time of filing the annual tax return can choose to file and pay the taxes at the entity level. In some cases, when the foreign nationals do not have the intentions to pay and file the US taxes, they should choose filing the taxes and paying the taxes at the entity level when they have the LLC. If they are filing the US taxes anyway, say for example, there is a US citizen and who is going back and settling in India, they have to file the US taxes anyway. In that case, even the foreign national can choose to file the taxes as a flow-through entity. But for a foreign national, if they don't intend to file the US taxes, it's better for them to be paying the taxes at the entity level.
Wonderful. Now, if I have to break down the taxes that I have to pay between federal and state, what is the breakup?
Well, so the federal government has a flat tax rate, not depending on the income. The tax rate is 21%. But please remember, 21% of the net income, not the gross revenue. In our example, let's say if your revenues are $100, you decide how much is the cost of goods sold, because all the services, all the merchandise is being provided from India. You are deciding how much is costing to provide that merchandise over here in this country. Let's say if it's costing $90. So $90 can be sent back to India as a cost of goods sold, as a subcontractor fees. On the remaining $10, you can take out the local US office expense, professional fees, accounting fees, warehouse, shipping, utility, and whatever the net profit is. Of that net profit, the federal government, the central government, we call it IRS, they will charge 21% taxes. The state taxes varies from state to state, and typically it's between 5% to 10% from depending on which state we are talking about.
Wonderful. So now please share about payroll tax filings here in the US, and are they mandatory?
Well, the payroll is a factor of labor. Payroll is a factor of employees. If you have employees in this country, if you have employees working for you, then you must have the payroll. If you have the payroll, you have the payroll taxes. So payroll taxes depends on state to state, on the salary, on the type of job. So in most cases, there are certain mandatory taxes. We call it FICA taxes, Social Security, Medicare. Social Security currently is 6.2%, Medicare is 1.45%. 50% is paid by the employee, 50% is paid by the employer. So the FICA or the payroll tax is roughly 15.3%. Then there are federal income tax and the state income tax. But please understand, Payroll is a factor of having the employees. It's a good idea. If you have employees working for you, then you will have the payroll taxes. Otherwise, you will not be exposed to the payroll taxes.
I have a question.
Please.
Sorry, regarding payroll that you mentioned, right?
Of course.
When they set up a company here, foreign national, when they set up a company here, are they required to hire certain number of U.S. citizens or green card holders here in USA to do their business?
Well, that question or that misconception comes from the visa. When somebody is going for this L1 visa or mostly the immigration-based visa, when you have the investment visa, in that case there are certain requirements that you have to create certain jobs. If you want a visa in this country, you can get an investment green card by creating number of jobs by investing $1 million in this country. But that by having a business in here in this country does not really mandate you to have the payroll in this country. Unless you are looking for an investment visa, then you have to have certain amount of investment.
But that's a completely separate category.
That's
we're
a completely
talking.
separate
Yeah,
category.
That's L1. Someday we'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
Go ahead,
Definitely.
Mr. Pathak.
Okay, now, see, many companies, very recently an example is a company came to us and they said that they want to form their company in, register their firm here in the US in the state of Oregon. And why? Because there is no sales tax. Now, how would you look at sales tax from the perspective of when these companies say that because there is no sales tax in that particular state, they want to form a company there?
Absolutely. Now, please, and I don't want to be kidding about it. If it was true that everybody can form a company in Oregon and not pay the sales taxes, all these Amazon and the Wayfair, all these companies will end up registering themselves in Oregon, so they don't have to collect and pay the sales tax. There was a huge case against Amazon, against Walmart that was there for the sales tax filing. A lot of states in this country, they have the sales tax based on the source, and there are some states that have the sales tax based on the destination. What it means is, I have a company in New Jersey. Depending on where I'm shipping, the sales tax are computed based on my location. So New Jersey is based on the source location. Even within the same state, the sales tax could be different from the location to location. Let's say in Newark, New Jersey, the sales tax is 50% of the regular sales tax because it's considered as urban development zone over there. So in New York City, the sales tax is 1% higher than rest of the New York state only because it's considered as New York City. But there are some states where the shipment, the customer location decides where the sales tax is going to be collected. So if you have a retail business in Oregon, depending on where you are shipping, the sales tax will still have to be computed and paid to that state. It can actually be more complicated and more difficult for such states because we know these states are not collecting their own sales tax. So all the other destination states would like their fair share. There is no symbiotic relationship. Say, for example, New Jersey and Pennsylvania has this relationship. If you are shipping from New Jersey to Pennsylvania or Pennsylvania to New Jersey, you don't have to be having the sales tax shipped to each other. They have this understanding that you can ship from one state to another state and we will not be going behind the customer. But in a state where they are not collecting the sales tax at all, they cannot have a symbiotic relationship with any other state. So all the other states would like to collect the sales tax based on the customer's location, and it can actually be more difficult. So we advise our viewers to be very careful. And please remember, if there was one clear winner, Delaware we talked about earlier for the business startup, or Oregon for the sales tax, then all the companies in the world will end up registering over there. This is not how it works.
Can a company register in more than one state?
Absolutely, is how it's typically done, especially with the IT consulting company. You have one home state, state of incorporation, then depending on where you have the warehouse, depending on where the employees are working, depending on where you have the branch office, you will end up having registrations in multiple states. It's very, very common for a company to have registrations in multiple states.
Oh, okay. Good to know. All right, Mr. Pathak, go ahead.
Okay, now, so since we're talking about filing taxes, now I have formed a company in New Jersey, Ajay, and I have a warehouse in North Carolina. So would I be filing tax returns for the state of North Carolina also?
Absolutely. So in this case, you will be filing the taxes in New Jersey as well as North Carolina. There is no double taxation. So the way the system looks at it, let's say your total profit not the revenue. In this example, let's say your total profit is $100. So with the IRS, you pay tax on $100. With the state of New Jersey and with the state of North Carolina, either depending on the revenue or depending on the payroll, you decide how much of the revenue or the payroll is in New Jersey, how much of the payroll is in North Carolina, and do a pro rata percentage. Let's say 70% comes from North Carolina because you have warehouse over there, you have multiple people working over there. Then you pay $70 worth of taxes in North Carolina, and in New Jersey you pay taxes on $30 in this example. So there is no double taxation. The filing is required in each state where you have nexus, and certain taxes should be paid out in each state where you have nexus.
Wonderful. Now, since we are talking about taxes and compliances, a very good question is going to come up now is what are the due dates for filing my tax returns in US?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you reminded me. So the due date for the LLC is the third month, March 15th, mid of the third month. The due date for the C corporation is the fourth month, mid of the fourth month, so 15th April. A lot of people get confused that I started the business in September, so I will be filing the taxes in next September. It's based on the calendar year. A lot of people get confused. Oh, in India, it's April 1st to March 31st. No, this is not India. This is US. You still follow the calendar year over here. It doesn't matter if you registered a business on December 31st, you still have the filing obligation for the LLC. And please do remember, for LLC, the tax filing deadline is a month sooner than a C corporation, where the filing deadline is April 15th.
And what if I don't pay my tax returns? Don't file my tax returns?
Well, if you don't file your tax return, depending on the type of business you will have the late filing penalty. If you owe money, you will have the late payment penalty. You will have some interest. We can audit you. In the worst case scenario, we can come behind you. We can put a lien against you. We can close the business. We can
just like any other US
like
based
any other business. We can freeze the bank account.
We got less than 2 minutes to go. Anything you like to add? Otherwise, I have a question.
Absolutely. I mean, please go ahead with the question.
My question. Okay, my question to you is, I always think in the long term. When that foreign national company sets up a business here in US and everything is going well, right? And if they want to go public, is there a time limit that how long do they have to wait, or can they go to public soon here in USA?
You can go to public as soon as you want to. So a lot of times the new concept is going through crowdfunding first. Going to public, or what used to be called going to public or listing in the Security Exchange Commission, cost about $10 million. It's a hefty amount of money. You have to have at least a business worth $100 million at least to be thinking about going to public. Now the new trend is, instead of going to public and investing $10 million, you can go through crowdfunding. There are certain websites that will allow you on a smaller scale go through the public funding, and it costs much less, and you can easily collect a couple of $1 million. Now you can go up to $5 million through crowdfunding by going through these websites and not spend a lot of money. But you do have to have a plausible cause. You do have to have a business. You do have to have some history. Why would anybody give you the money? Why would anybody invest in the money? You have an idea, so do I. Whatever idea you have, I can try to replicate it myself. Unless you bring some result, unless you bring some history, there is no such guideline as such, but it's a good idea.
No, this is, let's say if the company was like a company, the most known company from the other part of the world, right? And coming in here and they immediately want to go public, or whenever they want to go, but the idea is to raise funds here and make company more profitable. That's why I asked the question. Anyway, 30 seconds, Mr. Patakar.
Before you see, I have one last question, because we are talking about the taxes. It would be great if you talk about sales tax requirements here in the US.
Absolutely. So the sales tax percentage depends on the state to state. Say in the New Jersey, sales tax is 6.625%. In New York is 8.875%. If you are in retail business, depending on what kind of retail you have, more than likely you have the sales tax exposure. A lot of states will require you to file the sales tax monthly. Some states will require you to do quarterly, but you do have to have the sales tax filing if you have retail sales. In the end, I just want to remind everybody that it looks ugly from the outside. Unless you try it, you wouldn't know. In the worst case scenario, if your business does not work out, you can always dissolve it. The only repent you will have, what if I had tried? What if I had given it a chance? Give it a chance, give it a try. You never know how it's going to turn out. You give it a best shot, and then if it does not work out, you can always close.
All right, you give it a best shot, and chances are it will work out, because when you have experts like Mr. Naveen Pathak of Enter India and Mr. AJ Kumar of Science CPS Services, things will definitely work out in your favor. Whether you're a foreign national who want to do business here in USA, or you are a US-based person who is filing tax returns and want to have your tax return filed appropriately, flawlessly, that's where Science CPS Services can help you out. Meantime, I'd like to thank Mr. Pathak for being here in our show. Thank you so much. And Mr. AJ Kumar, as always, thank
Absolutely.
you. Remember, any question you have, taxtalk@itvgold.com. And for your personal or corporate tax returns, any tax related matter, we're like in the high time of the tax season, do contact Science CPS Services, visit their website, or give them a call at 908-380-6876. I am Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you all happy and tax-free days ahead. See you next time, same place, same time. So long.